Yeah, let's scroll through and see some of these questions here. Oh, here we go. What caused the sudden shift to add more clutter and obstructions into the new maps and reworks? In my experience, it caused nothing but more frustration for both sides. Agreed. I don't understand the whole concept with let's just add a bunch of random crap everywhere. Let's see. Great question. As clutter, you might be referring to two different things, so I'll do my best to answer both meanings. Clutter, as in more objects, making navigation more difficult. As our team grew during the graphical rework, a lot of details were added to make the maps richer. Lots of lessons were learned during these days, and we are still learning on what elements and metrics make it difficult for navigation. Giant objects in the way of loops with random weird-ass collision is what makes it difficult for navigation. Our level design team is actively working with the environment artists to make sure each asset found on a map, colliders, vegetation, etc., especially when it comes to navigation, follow game metrics. Okay. Finding objectives, visual clutter. As the graphic fidelity evolves in DBD, so does our gameplay need to evolve in terms of visual elements, which have not always followed. We are looking into that now. The idea is to have the level of priorities and easily perceivable elements are on the screen. This pass will make gameplay elements pop compared to the details that are great but less important to manage your objective. Okay, but I feel like you could do that. I get what they're trying to say. They're trying to, bring the design of the game up to 2023 from 2016. I get what they're saying and I get what they're going for. Maybe again, this is just the limitation of Dead by Daylight being built on, what was it, blueprints back in 2016? I know they've tried to upgrade all that over the years, but I feel like you should be able to add new artistic styles to the maps without it being like solid object with collision that screw up the player. For example, twigs on trees in Eyrie of Crows. Why does a twig that not even a killer, if a human ran into it, it would snap off the tree? Why does that have such solid hitboxes on it that it will literally stop like Demogorgon shred? Why does things that are meant to be decorative have such strong collision boxes on them? Like, I don't think anyone would complain if, say, like all those new bushes they added in on Mother's Dwelling, if you clipped through it. I would rather clip through it and it look maybe slightly oddly weird than a survivor getting stuck on it trying to take a loop tightly, or Blight getting, stuck on it with his rushes, or insert whatever killer here. I get what they're going for. I just don't understand why things need to have concrete hitboxes. From the level design perspective, we are in the process of addressing the clutter issue. The focus is clarity, readability, and navigation. We had this issue with the Toba landing in the PTB. I'm assuming that's the new map because I didn't get a chance to play the PTB because my computer was broken. And are addressing that in next week. Yeah, okay, so it is. They're addressing that in next week's release. We will revisit all maps and themes and make sure it makes sense for everyone. Is this something we're going to go through quickly with maps, or is it going to be like, yeah, we've heard the issues with, I'll just use Mother's Dwelling again as an example, with all the bushes on Mother's Dwelling, so we're gonna go back to it in 2 years. Like, what does that mean? What does that mean? What does that potentially mean? You could just add grass instead of bushes with awkward hitboxes. It would only benefit killers like Trapper and Hillbilly and wouldn't make much of a difference to Nurse Blight. That pretty much sums up what I was trying to say in 2 sentences. Exactly. The Swamp Realm had unfinished map featuring a village structure as well as the Blood Willow tree from the art book, possibly related to the Wraith back when he was still part of the Swamp Realm. Is there any plans in the future to bring this map as a playable one in Dead by Daylight, maybe with a visual upgrade of the swamp? The tree will eventually make its return to the swamp. However, at the moment, we're focusing our efforts on bringing visual and gameplay updates to existing maps. In the Swamp Realm specifically, we're going to remove the generators and the corners of the tiles I'm assuming that means like the random generators that can spawn way off in the random corners of the map. I'm assuming that's what they're referring to. As well as some elevations that don't have significant value add gameplay wise. Yeah, elevations of that map suck. That's why when we were practicing it the other week, I was saying I would never bring Pyramid Head to that map because there's so much elevation just randomly that can screw up his power. I fully agree. An up-and-coming streamer asked this question. Are there any plans to make custom games easier to set up for tournaments and other events? It's been years since the introduction of custom matches, and we haven't really had any new settings since. Options to limit items and add-on rarities, options to enforce non-duplicated perks on all survivors, better spectator controls, etc. Any of these things would really help make DBD events faster set up and more viewer-friendly. Imagine if we had that during the Streamer Bowl. If imagine say we set up a lobby and I know the perks that we want banned, so I can set it so they can't be chosen. Or we make it so the amount of people who can have sprint bursts, set it to 1. So there's no risk of duplications and all that. The only problem with that is I would have to host the lobby every time, so killers wouldn't get the host ping. So that would be kind of an issue. But I feel the trade-off there is really good. I just start a lobby for the day and I set all the stuff for everyone so no one has to worry about inadvertently breaking violations and whatnot. That'd be great. This is a topic that has really made it into our radar, and one we clearly see the value of. The custom matches features has been left untouched for far too long. Unfortunately, it's still too early to give an ETA when you could expect to start seeing some of these improvements in the game. That's too bad. In the recent public test build, you guys tested out a buff to Pyramid Head, which gave him the ability to torment survivors hit by the punishment of the damned, something that I said will never go through because that is insanely strong. You guys understandably walked back this buff as it allowed for some unfun situations for survivors. In the following developer update, you revealed the reason for testing this change was that you were looking for additional ways to let Pyramid Head apply torment. This would lead me to believe that the balance team has been looking to buff certain elements of Pyramid Head's kit. He needs a buff. He's only A tier right now, and I feel like he should be S++ tier. And I'm not biased. I'm only a P100 Pyramid Head main, so you can trust me that I'm not biased at all. I also would be kicking myself later if I did not take this opportunity to mention his add-ons. Pyramid Head's add-ons, aside from the range add-ons, do not feel like they impact his gameplay much at all when compared to other killers. His iridescent add-ons, while unique, are too restrictive in the requirements to get much value out of them. What do you mean? You don't like having an eerie add-on that literally just makes you have to stand still to get value out of it? What? No, it's good and it's fun and it's interactive. Yeah. Stop being needy. If you're looking to do something to Pyramid Head, which is the impression I got from the recent PTB, it seems that the add-ons would have been the first thing considered. So can we expect them more attention from the executioner going forward? Or are you happy with the spot he and his add-ons are in? Thanks again. You are correct that we initially wanted to change executioner's because we believe that he can be improved. This hasn't changed, and we still want to release an update for him in the future. Your suggestion about looking to the add-ons is noted. Okay, so I'll say this before, and I'll say this again. I'll probably say it a million more times in the future. Behavior tends to have a habit of looking at add-ons that have high usage rates and just nerfing them based on that. Behavior, if you're ever seeing this, the reason his range add-ons have such high usage rates is because everything else is bad. I agree that he should have an add-on pass to change up his other add-ons to give him more unique play styles, but that doesn't mean you have to take away the range add-ons. Keep those as is, change his other stuff, because in doing so, you will give him more play styles. You could give him play styles with the range add-ons that allow people to go for snipes. You could give him add-ons that make it so his M2 automatically applies the torment. You can make that an eerie add-on. This has been a suggestion that's been thrown around a lot. There are different things you can do to make his add-ons more unique and better while leaving the range add-ons alone. In the past, the team has stated that maps take by far the most development time out of anything else in the game. How long does it usually take to make an original map, such as Toba Landing, Dvarka Deepwood, from concept to completion? Also, how difficult is it to modify maps once they're in the game, such as adjusting the strength of loops, changing tile spawn logic, or even changing the size of the map? To answer your question, depending on the style of the map, it can take up to 6 months to create. When it comes to updating and modifying existing maps, we collect data non-stop and are always investigating player concerns. To use Toba Landing as an example, player feedback during the PTB helped us identify and implement certain adjustments on loops and map visibility that will be going to live servers. That's good, because I think in the developer notes, I don't think, unless I overlooked it, they mentioned anything about the map. So it's good to see that changes for the map are coming next week, even though they didn't mention it, because that was one of the main things I heard all the complaints about from the PTB was the map. I saw a clip where Billy couldn't even take his chainsaw through the shack door because he would just hit an invisible hitbox. So glad that's all being looked at. With the seemingly new trend of original licensed survivors getting lobby voice lines, can we expect to see this implemented for previous survivors as well? So survivors like Dwight, Meg, Claude, David, etc. And would this include the possibility of original survivors interacting with each other, similar to the Resident Evil survivors like Ronaldo and Thalita? Never say never. DBD is a game in a constant evolution, and past content is still living and evolving with it. That's a nothing answer. That's a nothing answer. It's okay if you don't have that is a nothing answer. You may as well have just scrolled past that, Dave. Whatever happened to the Promised Twins rework? It was talked about to be the next killer update after Legion Ghostface, though we haven't heard anything about it. And Twins are still plagued by many bugs. Oh, as far as I know, Twins are still plagued by many bugs as well. Due to limited space in each release and the unexpected complexity of the update needed for the Twins, the update has been delayed a lot longer than we wanted. However, it's been designed and we are working to release something in early 2024. When did the Twins come out? December 1st, 2020. So they'll be in their 4th year of release before getting some sort of substantial update. And remember, when they launched, they were broken. Not like OP strong broken, just straight up broken. Victor would like disappear into the ground and you would get locked, stuck as him, and his animations didn't even work. 2024. Oh man, all 3 Twins players must be devastated right now. I think many people would agree with me in saying that Hillbilly needs some add-ons adjusted. But also, why is the overheat mechanic still a thing? It's pretty much a non-factor, and there are add-ons to increase the overheat limit anyway. I feel you. Billy occupies a squishy, albeit violent, place in all of our hearts, and we've been working on him. An update has been designed for our Billy Boy, including add-ons. No specific date planned for implementing this just yet, but you expect news from us sometime in the next year. Sharpen your chainsaws. I feel like when you introduce something like the overheat mechanic and you never once hear positive feedback from that mechanic in all the years it's been in the game since it's been released, maybe it's time to fess up that, whoops, we made a boo-boo. It's okay. No one's going to be mad at you as long as you admit to the boo-boo and fix it. You're like, no, you know what? We tried something, it didn't work. We're going to remove it. Okay, cool, great. Bye forever. But it's been feeling like they're sticking to their guns with this, even though I don't think I've ever heard one positive feedback about him getting an overheat mechanic. Like, has anyone ever been in a game of Billy as Survivor, watched him, you know, the Billies who just drive around the map trying to go for like a long shot or whatever, and they'll just keep going and going and going until they hit someone? Has anyone ever been upset with that? Have you ever been sitting on a gen, watched a Billy go by and go, OP? He's been doing that for 5 minutes now and hasn't hit anyone. We've done all 5 gens. We're opening the door. No one's been even hooked, but he's been able to do this for 5 minutes. Busted killer. S tier. Needs a nerf. No! It has never happened! Are there any plans to rework or change Freddy in any way? I can't give you any super secret details, but I can tell you that he's on our radar for killers to update. He's only on their radar because of the tweet that I put out a few days ago that got like tons of attention and like over 600 likes. They're like, oh crap, Sergeant Fidget is tweeting out that Freddy needs to be on our radar. Write that down. Fidget has spoken. Write that down. While you're writing stuff down, behavior, hashtag shirt my survivor. Thanks. Good talk. Good talk. Any plans on improving daily rituals? A permanent 60k BP instead of the 30k we're getting now, and the ability to choose between survivor or killer rituals would be nice. I have been saying this forever. Nothing concrete on the roadmap, get it, but multiple ideas have been explored to improve the system. Thank you for your suggestion. We're open to reading the community's ideas and feedback on the topic, and we'll be considering them when we're discussing next steps. So that's nothing answer. Okay. Will you ever expand the daily rituals to give one survivor and one killer daily each day? That's essentially the question we just had. Also, would weekly or monthly rituals ever be added for a bigger payout? Nothing concrete in the road. They copy and pasted the answer. I mean, fair enough, it's the same question, but I'm not reading it twice. The Skull Merchant is a polarizing character currently. Skull Merchant. Are you happy with how Skull Merchant turned out? Do you plan on any future revisions for her? Skull Merchant has problems on live, and we are very aware of that. A few. We feel the killer is fun and... Why is there not booze in this? I'm gonna need it to read the rest of this answer. We feel the killer is... Gonna try again. We feel the killer is fun and interesting in general, but there are some unfortunate play styles that make her kit frustrating to play against. Two things to say here. She is getting an update. We are currently trying to determine when that can go out. Stay tuned. How about until you figure out when that update can go live, you just kill switch her. Just say like, oh, there was a bug. And when everyone is like, what was the bug? Just be like, there was a bug. And then give out 100,000 blood points and everyone will forget about it 2 seconds later. And then once you bring out the update, then you can unkill switch her. How's that? I think that's a good idea. Our most impressive game tends toward the 3-gen strategy. This is problematic in our game as a whole, but especially against certain killers, Skull Merchant being the most egregious. We are currently working on a systematic solution to deal with the 3-gen games, which will also help with playing against the Skull Merchant. I don't think... So, I see both sides of this. I don't think 3-gens in the sense when the survivors screw up or are not paying attention to the gens they're doing, and they give the killer the 3-gen, I don't think that's a problem. I think that survivor's being punished for a bad play. But on the flip side of that, when you have killers like Skull Merchant, who right when the game starts, just camp a 3-gen, yes, I think that is problematic. One is punishing a bad play, the other one is boring play. Especially when you have huge maps like Mother's Dwelling, where the majority of your killers can't compete because the map is just so big, or a map like Garden of Joy where you have 90,000 strong tiles all interconnected with 1 million pallets in between, not even accounting for the main building. I guess my point I'm making is maps are more of an issue. I understand there are a lot of people out there who will just camp a 3-gen right away. I think that's super boring and I don't do that, but I understand it is a problem. But I feel like problematic map design has a butterfly effect and a lot of other problems that are being brought up in this thing today. At its core, it's the map design. It's just so flawed on so many levels. So many levels. The big map gen rush leads to 3-gen being the only viable. That's what I mean. Like, if I'm on Mother's Dwelling and and I'm someone like Pyramid Head who doesn't have mobility, and the survivors perfectly split, like a gen in each corner of the map for the final 3, that's more than likely GG. So getting a 3-gen on a map like that is helpful, but again, super boring when a killer just camps it right from the get-go. Oh, here's an interesting question. Will the black bubble after hooking someone be addressed soon? I like the effect, but in a ton of scenarios, I cannot see if the killer's going towards me, even with the effect of Kindred. The intention of the bubble design is to hide the killer's exact position after survivor's been hooked. However, it's an old design, so maybe it's time to review it, its use and appearance. Yes, I hate it. I get what they're going for, but I feel like a more minimalist approach can be taken to it to accomplish the same thing. I hate that giant bubble when you can't see crap and all of a sudden Hunter's axe flies out of nowhere. It's brutal. Stop it. Stop it. Get rid of it. Be gone. Why has the map team not advanced substantially in the balance department in the past few years? The community has been clear and the maps are unbalanced, yet it seems the dev team simultaneously understand the issue, nerfing Erie, yet released Red Forest 2.0. I'm very curious to hear this answer. We began the work some time ago, but recently the speed at which we're able to push it forward has been greatly improved thanks to new hires and resources on the team. Well, that's good. Now we're able to tackle urgent day-to-day tasks while simultaneously making regular progress on live balance for existing maps. Regarding the area of crows, the intention of our balancing efforts was to address how strongly survivor-sided it was. We're still monitoring the results though, data and feedback, and we won't hesitate to go back for more tweaks if we feel they're needed. When it comes to Red Forest, we frankly just didn't have the resource at the time for the scope of work required. Now that we do, I've scheduled an update for both Mother's Dwelling and Temple of Purgation that will hopefully address players' concerns. Okay, that's actually good, because one of the points that I made, we're going to be talking about maps a lot, I guess, for this. One of the feedback that I've given for the map design team is they keep doing these like updates and quote unquote balance changes, but over the last 2.5 years, they've just been worse and worse to the point where in that 2.5 years, they've had to remake maps twice. So you got RPD, original RPD, Area of Crows, Garden of Joy, and then New Haddonfield, and then they had to remake RPD, and then they had to redo Area of Crows, and then they released Mother's Dwelling and Temple of Purgation, but they didn't hit any of the actual complaints that the community had. So it didn't make sense to me that not only do they have to keep remaking new maps because they just messed them up so much the first time, but even when they did release new maps, they were just had all the same problems. So if this is true, if this new or hiring new people will actually give them the resources to adequately tackle these map problems, then that's great. Because that has been something I have consistently noticed. When these new maps come out, a lot of the main issues aren't addressed. If anything, they're just made worse. So I actually really hope this is legit. And you're going into they're redoing Mother's Dwelling and Temple of Purgation again when they just did it. But if they didn't have these extra staff to help them out, I hope now this is actually a thing and not something that takes 5 years to do between every map. I hope if this is real, that they can actually start to see, oh yeah, we are repeating the same problems with every map over and over and over and over and over again. The same thing happened with this new map. Even though I haven't played it, all of the complaints I heard about it from the PTB were the same issues that all the other maps have had that have come out over the last 2.5 years. So I sincerely hope this is legit. And if they have a bigger staff now with map design team, then a lot of these problems can actually be addressed. Because as of right now, all the problems are being criticized, but they're not being addressed. They're just being repeated to the point where they make a new map and then have to remake it again a year later. So I fingers crossed to whoever wrote this that it's legit and we'll actually start seeing positive changes. Because if you haven't figured it out yet, my biggest issue with this game is map design. It's Is there any discussion regarding raising killer FOV or an FOV slider to help reduce motion sickness for those affected? Short answer, yes. Long answer, we have a design that is in development and the release date is in our field of vision. We can expect to see something later this year or early next year. So I don't have to run Shadowborn on Blight anymore. I mean, I only started like 1 to 2 months ago, but man, does it make such a difference. Imagine not having to use an entire perk slot to get an additional 15 degrees of view. I only use Shadowborn on Blight. I don't use it on the other killers, but I mean, if it becomes like a base kit, I'll crank that shit up. Absolutely. Absolutely. Add a 5th perk slot to the killers that can only have Shadowborn as the perk in it. Can you imagine? I want you to keep in mind that the Survivor player base far outweighs the killer player base because Survivor is 4 to 1. I want you to imagine the chaos if behavior, even if it was literally Shadowborn only, if killers got an additional 5th perk slot and survivors didn't. I personally would pop all the popcorn and watch the chaos unfold on Twitter, but I wouldn't want to be a part of it. Hi, glad you guys came by to answer questions. A question in particular is about map design. I primarily play killer, and sometimes I feel like the outcome of a game is decided before it even starts, depending on what map I end up on, either when chosen via offerings or by RNG. When designing maps, what, if anything, is done with structure and layout to make maps fair for both sides? I mean, I feel like behavior already knew this, but I hope after this Q&A, they're like, okay, yeah, we get it. Our players hate our maps. We get it, I hope. The intention when we create maps is not to favor one side more than the other. This is why we currently have to rebalance the maps. We are using data collected and feedback we get from the community. We have started in the last year to rebalance the maps, and we are going to continue and be active when it comes to maps that already exist, and same with the newly released maps. We want to bring the best experience for everyone to enjoy. Example, the Raccoon City Police Station split, the update in the Junkyard, and soon farm maps. Yeah, but the problem with the Junkyard is you went, hey, we're gonna split the giant car wall, to which everyone went, okay, great, that's awesome. And then you decided to add 40 pallets. Why? Why? I was one of those people that never had a problem with Blood Lodge, Survivor or Killer. Now when I spawn in on Blood Lodge, I go, it's like Gideon, but outside now. What I should have got in on this Q&A and said, what's your obsession with adding 30 to 40 pallets to every map? I don't get it. I should have been in on this Q&A earlier. I'm too late now, but any updates on console to PC cross progression? There's currently no further update, unfortunately. We know it's something desired by the community as a whole, but we cannot say if, when it will ever be able to be implemented other than the platforms we've already confirmed. So as of right now, no update on cross progression. How does the entity choose its victims, both survivors and killers? Who knows? Good answer. Regarding individual killer balance, will you start taking feedback from people who have spent countless hours playing them, if at least to see what they want of their killer without being unbalanced? Our external playtesting methods and processes involve a large variety of player types, all of which range widely in skill level and experience in the game. Veteran players with many hours in DBD have super valuable feedback, especially when it comes to breaking our rules and exposing balance issues. It's important to point out that the beginner, intermediate, and casual players also have important contributions and insights to share that we need to also take into consideration and use to balance our designs. Well, you guys said earlier, you're trying to figure out ways to give Pyramid Head some buffs. I'm a Pyramid Head main. Play him a lot. It's the reason I started playing your game. To the point where even I said, as fun as it would be to auto-apply Torment, that's probably too strong and shouldn't go through. So if you're looking for a Pyramid Head player's brain to pick, I already tweeted at you once behavior, and I'll say it again. Come pick my brain. You know where to find me. Is there a reason more Survivors emotes haven't been added yet? It feels like a no-brainer since you could make a fortune from selling them, and it's not like it'd break immersion since this game is long past the point now. I feel like even small things which could be sold, like hand gestures and stuff, would be such a nice addition with the time. However, things like dances would be amazing. Even better if a killer could do them at some point. Survivor emotes was an idea we played with many years ago. We even got as far as to implement a few of them in a prototype build. Unfortunately, we found them to often either break immersion or encourage negative gameplay behaviors. For that reason, we haven't revisited the idea for a number of years. Never say never, but Survivor emotes certainly won't be coming anytime in the near future. I don't know what you mean by encourage negative gameplay behaviors. I personally think it would be hilarious if I was a killer player and I walked up to survivors at the exit gate, and instead of sitting there teabagging me, they just turn around and flip me off before they walk out. I don't think that's negative. I think that would be hilarious. Maybe they can flip me off, and then as they turn and walk out the gate, the glass shatters and Stone Cold's music starts playing. That again would be hilarious. With that being said, let's get a WWE chapter. Undertaker can be the killer, and Mankind can be the survivor, and his Mori will be throwing him off the top of Fractured Cowshed. Great. I'll take my cut now. Thanks. Is there going to be an update where survivors can always recover from the dying state, like the one-off with Unbreakable? I think I remember reading about that once. Cheers. I can tell you're dying to know. Never mind. No, we are not planning on making that part of the base game. If you're referring to the finisher Mori, we tested that in the PTB and it was an early prototype test. There was a lot of feedback and we are still working on that feature, but again, we are not planning on putting Unbreakable in the Survivor base kit. I think it would have been too strong. I suggested on Twitter a couple weeks ago, there was a conversation going on about it where I said maybe if like 3 or more survivors are slugged, maybe the first down survivor can then pick themselves up after X time, just to counter like the Wraith that we had the other day, who was just using knockout and trying to slug/bleed everyone out at 5 gens for literally no reason, like to counter stuff like that. But I think every survivor having Unbreakable base kit was busted. Very, very busted. Yeah, interesting to read through this at least and get some answers from behavior themselves. Unsurprisingly, the biggest thing that everyone is talking about and worried about is map design. I've been saying for a while, map design is, in my opinion, the biggest issue in this game currently. If what they were saying is true about having more staff and a bigger team now to focus on that, they can actually go back and fix a lot of these problems, because as I've said earlier, for last 2.5 years, they would say they're doing updates and reworks of maps, yet they just keep repeating the exact same problems over and over and over again to like a frustrating degree where it feels like they don't learn. But if it was like a staff shortage and now they have a bigger team and it's going to help them fix that, great, I'm all for it. Try to remain positive as we now load into our matches of DBD for the day on the Twitch stream, where Garden of Joy, RPD, and Borgo all have increased spawn rates. Thanks for watching. Yay.